Okay? Saul never changed his name to Paul. He was both Saul and Paul at the same time. Saul is a very, very Jewish name, right? Shaul, right? Saul, okay? First king of Israel. His name, his Greek, the name Paul is his Greek name. It's a name that he uses to communicate easily with people. Now, for instance, today, if you knew in secondary school, I would know immediately which group you are from if you greeted me in the street. Okay? If you called me by my Mandarin name, I know you're from this particular group. If you called me by my Christian name, I know you're from this group. And if you call me some weird nickname, I'll be able to locate you at which part of my life. Same thing with Saul and Paul. Okay, Saul, he's both Saul and Paul. He never changed his name. Okay, so whatever online article that told you to otherwise, ignore it. Okay. Now, I want to share with you this morning by telling. I want to begin by telling you that actually we stand shoulder to shoulder with Paul. Okay, when we get up to heaven, there's no hierarchy system. There's no ranking system. Okay, CEO, managing director, general manager, and so on. No, none of those. We stand shoulder to shoulder. Of course, if you take the Bible literally, okay lah, the apostles will be judging with Jesus lah. But other than that, there's no ranking system. You don't have somebody in heaven outranking another person. No, okay. And most of us will think of Paul as some spiritual version of Superman. No matter what he does, nothing can happen. Stone him, he still come back alive. Okay, kick him, he still come back alive. No, okay. In reality, he's much more layered and perhaps much more human. Now, as I go through this, perhaps you have a better understanding, and then you realize that in as much as we thank God for Paul, Paul is responsible for at least 2/3 of our New Testament. We are thankful for him. But he's not a superhuman. Okay? Right. Now, the first time we meet Paul is in Acts chapter 7 and Acts chapter 8, okay, in which we read about the stoning of Stephen, or Stephen, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Okay, I've heard all kinds of pronunciation. Stephen, Stephen, Stephen. In the Cantonese version, Cai Kai. Okay, I've heard all kinds of versions. Whatever you choose, okay? I will pronounce it as Stephen. Kick me for all you want, okay? Now, the first time we encountered Paul is when Stephen was being stoned. Now, where was Paul in this? Now, very interesting. Luke records that very, very cryptic sentence, but it's right there, okay? Paul is right there. And Paul was standing at the side, guarding their clothes and approving of it, okay? This is not a football. He's not going, oh, wow, this looks interesting. Oh, okay. No, he was actually an advocate of it. He is in favor of it. Okay? Now, why is he such a violent person? Now, he was a violent person. Subsequently, he wasn't. That in itself will be a lesson for us later on. Okay? Now, Philippians chapter 4, verse 3-5. Now, I actually preached on this before. I think last week or the week before. I myself, now this was Paul, under challenge from all those other super apostles who says, look, I'm a more genuine and authentic version. I'm a more real apostle. Who is Paul? So Paul is saying, okay lah, come on, you want to compare credentials? Let's compare credentials. But let me tell you, that's not what I depend on. That's not my foundation. Paul says, I myself have reason for the confidence in the flesh also. If anyone thinks he has any reason, he thinks he's more authentic than me, let me prove it to you. I have been circumcised on the 8th day, very strict, which tells me that probably there's some presumption that, okay lah, plus minus 1-2 days, plus minus 1-2 weeks, nobody will really care. Paul is very strict. 8 day means 8 day. Or rather, his father is very strict. Okay? He himself also was very strict because, he was circumcised 8 days of the people of Israel. He didn't graft in. You read Old Testament, there is room for people to be grafted into the people of Israel. That means you're outsider, you can still be part of Israel if you go through a certain procedure. Whereas Paul is every bit born-bred, pure-blood Israelite. Okay? He is from the tribe of Benjamin, as I explained before. Benjamin is one of the smallest, if not smallest tribe in Israel. But why is it held in high esteem? Well, that's because of his Jewish name. The first king came from the tribe of Benjamin. And God always has a habit of using smaller or weaker people. You look carefully throughout the Bible. Whenever God does something big, it's very seldom using a superpower. He always wants to use all the small people. Now, I trust that you will take that as an encouragement to you in CCK. All right? Now, if you need a further lesson, your building project, The big givers are, other than St. Andrew's Cathedral, the big givers are all the smaller churches, Okay? The smaller churches are outpace the others by a big gap. God always prefers to use smaller people. Why? Because when you are weak, you know how to depend on God. That's where He can manifest His glory. Never look down on small size. Okay? Remember, we operate from a position of weakness, not because we are weak, because we have a good God. We have a powerful God. All right? So, he is a Hebrew of Hebrews. To the law, a Pharisee. I've already mentioned this before. His worldview is that Israel had sinned because of idolatry. The only way back is a radical return to obedience by any means. And his role model is this person called Phinehas. Who on earth is Phinehas? Well, let's talk about him. Now, you meet Phinehas in the Old Testament. Let's take a moment. Now, this was the point where, this was after the talking donkey incident. Balaam was supposed to go and prophesy against Israel, and instead the donkey kept stopping, and then he whacked the donkey. Finally, the donkey spoke. Wow, God can use donkey. Yes, but do you want to be one? Okay, so anyway, donkey spoke. So after that incident, okay, Balaam decided. Now this is not stated in Numbers itself. This is stated in somewhere else in the Bible. Balaam used another tactic. Instead of trying to curse Israel, he led them astray. So he destroyed them from within. Okay, get them to interact and mingle with the Midianite people. So you mingle with them, the Midianite people, hey, come and join my Hungry Ghost festival. Okay, and then from there it goes on to sexual relations, which is a very clear violation of Old Testament law. So this is the incident. One of the people of Israel came and brought a Midianite woman to his family. Okay, this is obviously some hanky-panky going on. Idolatry also involved. And later on, the Bible actually gives us the name of the man and woman. Okay, Zimri and Cosby. Don't know why we are given the name, but they were given the names. In the sight of Moses and on the sight of the whole congregation of Israel. Okay, Israel had prostituted itself. It had mingled with the Midianites, participated in idolatry, and then God sent a plague on them. That means this plague was already ongoing. Okay? Now, we have COVID-19, we have SARS. Okay, those things just self-isolate. No issue. That plague, medical science not so advanced. People dropping dead. All this was happening. And then you have this one man, Zimri, who brought a Midianite woman to his tent with the intention of sexual relations, of course. While the plague was ongoing. No social distancing. No trace together. All he kept was the hanky-panky. Okay, and then this happened. While the whole congregation was suffering from the plague, weeping, some of them weeping, this guy actually cares only about himself. Who cares about God? I'm going to have my fun. So, next slide. When Phinehas, that's the character we're talking about. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, who is Eleazar? Eleazar, the son of Aaron. So, Phinehas, if you want to trace a family line, is Aaron's grandson. Okay? He saw this, he rose, he took a spear. Now, a priest technically not supposed to bear arms. This is one of the reasons why I've never been called back for reservists. If I'm called back, that means we're at war already. Okay? The priest, Phinehas, took a spear, go inside, follow the fellow in the tent, whack the two of them, kill the two of them. One spear, skewer two of them at one go. Okay? And then the plague stopped. And subsequently, God says, because Phinehas was jealous for me, and God pronounced a blessing on Phinehas and his line. Now you begin to understand this Phinehas person. This is Paul's role model. Because of that, because of Phinehas, Israel averted disaster. So you can imagine why, as Paul grew up, he said, "Oh, Phinehas is my hero." Okay, people my generation, we look at Rambo lah. Now, of course, we know today Rambo not realistic but when I was growing up, Rambo was a hero. No, Phinehas was the Rambo to Paul. Or Saul, depending on what name you want to use. Okay, he's held up as an example of righteousness. Now, if Phinehas is Saul's role model, then you begin to understand that in Saul's mind, he wasn't actually persecuting Christians. He wasn't persecuting Christians, no. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was, in fact, purifying Israel. What a noble objective, don't you think? Now, we know from hindsight that's wrong, but in his mind, and in that moment, he was purifying Israel. Now, when he did, of course, he purged Jerusalem first. That's where he was. Subsequently, some of those he persecuted in Jerusalem escaped to Damascus, and that's why he wanted to go to Damascus. He asked for letter of approval, and then he heads towards Damascus. And we know how that turned out. Remember, those days countries, the borders are not so clear, so no need passport. You want to go, just go. So as he head to Damascus, you know the light shine down from heaven. It was so powerful, he was knocked to the ground, and then he hears an audible voice. And the audible voice says this, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Now this is a very, very, very loaded question. And Saul knew, I hope you don't mind, I use the names interchangeably, okay? Saul knew he was in big trouble. How? Because when that voice came, it meant that, oh no, those Christians may be right after all. One. Second, he thought he was serving God by going after the Christians. Now he suddenly realized in this encounter, he realized at once, I have not been serving God, I have in fact been fighting God. And he couldn't see. Now when he couldn't see, where do you end up seeing? You end up looking within yourself lah. And he didn't like what he was seeing. He didn't eat or drink for 3 days, and subsequently he was directed to this guy called Ananias. Now I salute Ananias. Ananias is one of those unsung heroes in the Bible. If not for Ananias and not for Barnabas, we would never have heard of Paul. Ananias had his own doubts. God appeared to a dream and said, go to this place called Straight Street, look for this guy called Saul. And if Ananias was Singaporean, he'll probably say something like this, God, my xiao la. You want me to go? This guy has a reputation for killing Christians. You want me to go and, give myself to him, gift-wrap myself to him. But God says this, go. He is my chosen instrument. I will show him how much he must suffer. So he went. So credit to Ananias. If Ananias didn't obey, despite his doubts, we would never have heard of Paul. Now, let me suggest to you, what if your obedience is the basis for the world being changed? Your obedience leads to someone else encountering God, and that person goes on to impact the world. What if you are ministering to another Paul right now? Have you thought about that? Okay, so now after this, Paul hit the ground running, right? No, he didn't. We thought he hit the ground running. You read the Bible, it looks like he went immediately in. No, he didn't. He was badly shaken, and so would I if I were him. He actually disappeared to Arabia for a while. Now, most of us think of Arabia as in Saudi Arabia. No, that's not correct. Remember, those days, Arabia is a whole region. So you could be in Jordan and still be in Arabia. Okay? Saudi Arabia means house of Saud. Means that particular family that's ruling that area. Saudi Arabia and that area talked about in the New Testament, different. Okay? He disappeared to Arabia for a while. I don't know how long. Subsequently, he returned to Damascus for 3 years. In that 3 years, the guy who used to persecute Jesus and the followers of Jesus end up now preaching Jesus. Okay? So much so that people got offended and tried to assassinate him. So his followers lowered him down from outside the wall. I remember as a Sunday school kid, they show us a picture of Paul sitting in a basket lowering down from the side of the city wall. First assassination attempt. Okay? Subsequently, he went to Jerusalem, and that is when he met Peter and the disciples. And they rejected him initially, fearful, and then Barnabas stepped in. All right? Now, in Jerusalem, he continued his ministry. Again, there was another assassination attempt, second one. Finally, in addition to the assassination attempt, Paul couldn't fit in. He's a bit of a maverick. So he went off to Tarsus, his hometown. Now, while I was in Tarsus, Barnabas went to look for him because Antioch needed help. The ministry was growing. So Barnabas went to look for him. Now, it is in Antioch that the people there were first called Christians. So Antioch has a very special place in history. Now, the rest, as we know, is history. Now, I want to talk to you about Paul by framing his life, his story in 3 things. 1, the pre-conversion Paul. 2, the encounter with the risen Christ. And 3, the aftermath. By the way, those of you who have sat through my discipleship class will find this very familiar. This is phase 1, lesson 1. You can frame your testimony in the same way. If you notice by now, it is very basically past, present, future. You notice? What were you like before you met Christ? How did you meet Christ? And what difference was there after you met Christ? So you can frame your own personal testimony that way. All right? Now, the pre-conversion Paul, Acts chapter 8, verse 3. Paul was ravaging the church. Ravaging. Okay, the word ravage, the Greek word ravage is laimanomai. Laimanomai. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. It is the same word used in Psalm 80 verse 13. The boar, next click. The boar from the forest ravages it. The connotation is tearing apart. So Paul was tearing the church apart. He was dragging off people to prison. Okay? And the pre-conversion Paul, you don't want to meet him. He was more than human. Brutal and savage. Why? Because he was blinded by bigotry and self-righteousness. Now, what's bigotry? Bigotry means I'm always right, you're always wrong. Bigotry. Okay? Self-righteousness. Don't need to talk too much. Oops, wrong spelling. Sorry. Self-righteousness, incorrect spelling. Correct it on your own. Now, here's the thing. Wow, Paul like that, Saul like that one. This could have been us. It could have been us. You see, the moment we are so convinced we're in the right, we have no qualms about being nasty to other people, right? That's Paul. So what happened when he encountered the Lord? 150 miles from Jerusalem, he meets Christ. Now, after he meets Christ, new life, new reality. Because he realized the whole time who his real target was. He thought he was going after Christians who had, he was going after backsliding Jews. He thought he was going after Jews who had turned up, traitor Jews. But now he realized actually he was going after God the whole time. Now, the other thing I want you to notice is when Jesus says, "Why are you persecuting me?" Don't miss the point. He shares in our suffering. Whatever you're suffering, Jesus shares in it. And Paul knew immediately this was no ordinary human being. Later on in Galatians, he will say, Jesus revealed himself to me. The initiative was God. It's not that I discovered him. He revealed himself to me. And he was arrested by the grace of God. Now later on in Acts 26, as he explains his own testimony, read it. You realize that this is actually not the first encounter. I got no time. I'm not going to go into details. But read it for yourself. Compare Acts chapter 9 with Acts chapter 22 and Acts chapter 26. Because in all three instances, we read about Paul's conversion account. Acts 22 and 26 is how he phrased it himself. Okay? Now, what about the aftermath? After being arrested by the grace of God, what happens? Now, as I thought, whoever encounters God for real will always be transformed. Always. This is the dead giveaway for any encounter. Okay? After he encounters Christ, there is a new reverence for God. Now, this is a nice little detail in Acts chapter 9, verse 11. 9:11. Paul was praying. Who was he praying to? Okay? That will open up open a door to a whole new discussion. But go and read that for yourself. Okay? There was a new reverence for God. There was a new awareness of the fatherhood of God. And now he knew he had new access to God through Christ. So new dimension of relationship to God. But not only that, there is a new relationship with the church. Even before he went away to Arabia, he already had a glimpse of it. Because when Ananias came to him, how did he address Paul? Do you know this? Have you read? Brother Saul. This was his first meeting with Paul. And he already called him brother. Because of the encounter with Christ, Paul had turned from wolf to sheep to shepherd. He went from arch enemy to member of the family. That's the transformation. Whoever encounters Christ for real, this is what happens to you. Okay? Now, what are the lessons for us? And what we can learn from it? Now, first, the grace of God is something that nobody can escape. It corners you, C.S. Lewis calls God the hound of heaven. You know what a hound is? A dog. You know what a dog does? It chases after you, doesn't give up. You try irritating a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd. We are told, any other dog bark at you, you charge at the dog will run. Except the German Shepherd and the Rottweiler. Those two dogs you don't try. Or Pit Bull. You charge at them, they'll charge back at you. Okay? Now, C.S. Lewis calls God the hound of heaven. He doesn't give up chasing after you. Your goodness is running after us, right? We just sang that song. Okay? The grace of God corners you, but always gives you a choice. And nobody is out of God's reach. Now, but bear in mind, the grace of God is not earned. It cannot be earned. It is given as a gift. We are here because God gave us the gift, not because we have earned it in any way. None of us have earned it. I have not earned it. Sometimes I'm amazed. God and I see what's the darkness that's inside me. But sometimes I look at the mirror, I look at myself in the mirror and say, I don't know how on earth God can choose this guy. But yet He does. I don't know why. Maybe it's time for us to stop asking why and just respond to it. No one is out of reach. It is not earned. The gift of grace is still given to us today, you know. You may be a Christian for a long time. The grace is still given to you. He still loves you. Okay? So, when we refer to Paul as giant of the faith, he's not a hero because he was great. It wasn't his success anyway. He was a hero because the grace of God made him one. Now, imagine what the grace of God can do in you. Every one of you, God is going to give you His grace. He's made that gift of grace ready for you. Now, the real question is, have we unwrapped the box? Or have we merely unwrapped the box? Hey, nice present, leave it there, don't use. Right? Somebody gives you a gift, open the gift, use the gift. Be thankful for it, but use it. Now, the grace of God is still given to us today. Paul is a hero because the grace of God made him one. It was his obedience after that made him a hero. Should you be surprised if your obedience to God will make you a hero? Maybe not immediately, maybe not obviously, but somebody will benefit. When we get up to heaven, somebody will come to you and say, hey, thank God you ministered to me that day. Because of that, God is real to me. And that person will be in eternity together with you. Imagine that. Should you be surprised? You have the same potential, you know, all of us. And therefore, should we be any less? How are we standing shoulder to shoulder with Paul today? Now in Philippians, Paul says, I'm thankful for you because you strove shoulder to shoulder with me for the gospel. So that's your key. How are you striving for the gospel? How is the gospel a reality in your life? How are you making it a reality to the people around you? Is it obvious? If not obvious, never mind, make it obvious. Remember, with God, there is no day end. We can always start afresh. So I want to leave this with you. Paul is our role model, of course, but he's not a superhuman. He's not somebody who does things that the rest of us cannot do. We can. Now, some of you may be DC fans, some of you Marvel fan. I'm a little bit of a Batman fan. Why? Because Batman is the only one who doesn't have superpowers. You notice? Superman can fly. Wonder Woman can handle the thing. Maybe she has the power of being sexy, who knows? Batman, no power . No power at all. His only power is his reach. But that's not what made him Batman. What made him Batman is his discipline. Which technically speaking, any of us can be Batman. Don't try that in Singapore. We've got a Singapore police force. But the discipline, that's what I'm talking about. Now, if you've got that level of discipline, you can do what Paul does. What Paul does will be something that you do. Maybe it's not obvious. It will never make the headlines. But as far as God is concerned, it's a big deal. I'd like to invite you to join me in prayer. We thank God for Paul. We thank God for his work. We thank God for his legacy. But God intends, with the help of the Holy Spirit, you can equal or surpass whatever that he's done. Because after all, this is what the grace of God does. He raises you up beyond what you think you can do. So Heavenly Father, we thank you for your servant Paul. We thank you for doing so much through him and using him as an example and an inspiration to all of us, that you can likewise do a lot through us if we walk before you in holiness and obedience. So I pray for my brothers, my sisters, myself, that this day we will resolve to walk before you in complete obedience. Lord, help us, Lord, to put aside the things of the world. Help us to lay everything aside and run the race, to fight that good fight of the faith, so that at the end of the day, even if what we do is not noticed or dismissed by the world, we stand before you in joy that you recognize it and we know you recognize it. Thank you, Lord. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Might want to answer that.